Welcome to B2B Life with Jeff Brummer. This is your chance to listen in on conversations with successful entrepreneurs and business owners on their journey to success. Every story is different, but after consulting thousands of businesses over the last 20 years managing their business payments, Jeff has seen what works and what doesn't. From inspiration to tactics to a good laugh, helping leaders build more fulfilling businesses and lives is what B2B Life is all about.
Welcome to the B2B Life Show, where we connect high performers and you find out what makes them tick, both professionally and personally. My name is Jeff Brummer. I've consulted over 2,600 businesses over the last 20 years in managing their payments to align with their personal and business goals. My guest today is Rick English. Rick is with Up Advisors. They're a quality consulting and coaching company, has helped many small businesses across the country. Rick, I can personally attest, has helped some of my clients, and we've known each other for the last couple of years, and excited to have Rick on this extended part two. Rick, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, fabulous. Yes. Manic Monday, but trying to get rolling. You know how it is. Mondays are always kind of, the stuff carries over from the week before, but yet there's always something a little bit off on Monday. You got to get the flywheel going. So,
yeah.
Well, good. So we're carrying on here, this part two. We talked a little bit already about your current profession, kind of what got you there, your passion of what you love. Helping small businesses. What do you feel has made you successful in this realm? Like, what do you whether this is your time to brag. We're going to start off right from the front. Both, there's skills that you learn and you kind of grow to develop, but then there's also natural talents, like God-given talents. What would you say, time to brag, what would you say has really helped you in this consulting space, helping small businesses?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is coming alongside small business owners as a partner, like a business partner. I'll often say, like, I come in, I'm going to dig deep, get to know you, get to know your business, and really be able to determine those things that we need to take action on right away to enable you to address issues and or maximize opportunities. But and so once I've done that and I come alongside you and partner with you, then it's being able to address just about anything that comes their way. There are occasions where I can't give them the best answer and I'll go get it. But for the most part, it's like I become a trusted advisor, and that's probably an overused term. But for example, I get a guy that I'd worked with for about a year, and he was doing some other stuff. And so we paused kind of our working relationship, but he calls me up on Friday. Hey, can I bounce an idea off you? And he's got an issue with his partner. Right. So we have a 30-minute conversation, and then he messages me this morning with a text. Talk about starting early. His text, I think, came in at like 6:30.
Oh.
Fortunately, I was up already, but because my first client call on Mondays is at 7, so I have to get that flywheel spinning pretty quick. But and he's hitting me with stuff, and I get hit with stuff all the time. I jump on a call. A lot of times I don't know what I'm getting, and I think you have to be nimble and you have to understand, like, small business is an emotional thing, and so I may go into a call thinking, here's my agenda. Every call I have an agenda ready, right? But a lot of times we're turning the car this way because this happened. Something happened. One of my guys, that happened not too long ago, he's like, yeah, I laid off like 2/3 of my staff. He didn't tell me. We had a conversation that he may do something. He's like, yeah, I laid off. And he laid off one of the people I never would have thought he laid off. So then it was like, well, wait a second. We need to go a different direction because he let go of somebody that was key to the business, and we got to fill that gap. Right. So I didn't go into the call expecting that. So being able to adapt, shift on the fly, and really provide good advice in just a wide variety of situations, and not be so dialed into a system that I'm trying to force into this business. We do systematize things, but it's based upon where the business is at, and it's flexible enough to say, all right, we're not going to cover that today. We're not going to talk about your objectives. We're going to deal with this issue that is now front and center.
Yeah.
So that's what enabled me to really be able to, one of the things that's enabled me to really engage and build relationships with small business owners.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that. Adapting is definitely, you can't be rigid on, hey, you know it all. You're the business advisor, coach. You know, you kind of have to play a little bit of the game, and you've got to help them in the fires that they put out. And then also, I think the very first you said, as far as touching on their goals, you're not here to put your goals on them. They really have to define their goals, because then they take ownership of them, and then they're more likely to accomplish their goals. You're just kind of trying to keep them in the right box for those goals, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, good. What actually, like, what motivates you personally, professionally? Like, what gets you up in the morning, gets you out of bed? What's your why? Like, why do you do it?
Well, it's just really for me about helping small business owners. I heard for so many years the failure rate of small business. And I often wonder, I wouldn't say I did a lot of research trying to figure out why they failed, because that really, my goal going in was, I'm going to help them succeed. And I want to go figure out for myself what those issues are, what they face. And so for me, it's just, I didn't know I'd like it as much as I do. I mean, you go out and you start something that's different than you'd ever done. And so you don't know what it's going to be like, but I just really enjoy seeing people be in one place, know where they want to take it, to your point with the goals, and then being able to help them get there, and to deal with all the bumps along the way. Right? It's not. I mean, growth does not happen like that. It'd be nice if it did. Just this linear upward growth, but it tends to be like this. Yeah. Hopefully, you don't see too many big dips, but sometimes that happens, and just helping business owners really get better and improve. And ultimately, the biggest thing for the owner themselves is to get them. So many business owners tell me, what I want to do is I want to build a business that runs itself. And I'll often tell businesses don't truly just run themselves, but you can build an amazing team that can run it for you, where you don't have to be nearly as involved as you are right now. So that's ultimately the goal, is to help these business owners achieve whatever goals they have for their business and their life.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. So what kind of drives you is seeing the success of these guys, getting them to not be the statistic, whatever it is, of small businesses that fail. I don't want to quote a number, but it's not 100% businesses make it. So
you hear everything from 50 to 80% fail.
Yeah.
Within 5 years. So.
Yep. Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're there to save them sometimes probably from themselves, but oftentimes from a myriad of problems that you can see down the road. What's the saying? There's no such. I'd rather not have a crystal ball, because there's something I need to quote it. Maybe I'll put in the show notes. I don't have a crystal ball because sometimes if the ball breaks, I don't want to get cut. It's like you definitely. You've seen the truth, though, of what works and what doesn't. And truth is kind of a fortune. Truth is kind of the teller of the future. You can kind of help them steer clear from some of those bigger ups and downs, hopefully. Right. So that's good. Well, what does success look like for you? We don't have to even go down the road of business 100%. Like, what's success in life? You've got a great family. What's success in your family? Like, how do you define success in your life? Like, kind of what fulfills you in that bucket?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one is, for me, is, got to have meaningful work. I'm just a super driven person. So I need to feel good about what I'm doing in work. I need to have balance, which, that's a battle for me. Partly because, it probably means saying no to some of the small business owners who I'd like to work with over time.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't done that, but I've also taken on a lot of clients. But finding balance and being able to enjoy what I enjoy, that may be, just spending time with family, watching sports, getting out on the side by side. I mentioned unicycling, being able to spending time with the kids. So finding, having a really strong business where I'm achieving my mission, and that enables me to have balance and have good relationships with my kids and build external relationships. What the interesting thing about that my business, because I get to know people so well, is a lot of these business owners end up becoming friends, and that's happened a ton, as well as networking, pretty heavily to build the business. A ton of relationships that way. So, but it's that the balance piece is always a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge for me.
Yeah, work. I mean, that's effectively the B2B life show is kind of balancing that business versus life and kind of how they mesh. Like sometimes you have to be head down on something in the business versus, hey, this part, like I'm taking this complete day off. My daughter's in a volleyball tournament and it goes all day. And that's the beauty of having balance is you kind of have to find, where you're needed the most at that day and that time or that week or that period of your life. So that's good that you kind of realize that. Cool. Well, good. No, so we obviously we always like to have this show where we learn something. I know you've got a book that you love. There's a couple books that you love. You mentioned then a quote. First off with the quote, you want to read us the quote and why? Let us know why you picked it.
Sure. Yeah. So it says, people don't change that much. Don't waste time trying to put in what was left out. Try to draw out what was left in. That is hard enough.
I've never heard that before. That's a good one.
It comes from the book called First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham and Kurt Kaufman. These are some guys that did through collectively. I think they're professors, but they did this. They did this work. Actually, no, they were part of like the Gallup organization, but they had done like this collectively, like 80,000 interviews of managers, and they come up with, with these rules. And one of them was this. And I'm famous actually for not reading all of books. In fact, I don't know where I stopped in this particular book. I think I stopped about halfway through, not intentionally.
I'm kind of the same way. Like I've read a lot. I started a lot of books, and then I'm like, yeah, it's hard to finish all of them for sure.
I just came to the conclusion that I don't care. If I get one thing out of the book, I'm good.
That's true. A nugget.
Yeah. So this book, the reason I picked this quote is because it became this. I read it and I was like, that is just so true. This was probably close to 20 years ago now, but I read it and I was like, you know what? Why are we doing this? Why do we do this? Why do we try and train? I mean, one thing is training knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. But if somebody's lousy at customer service, why do we want to try and make them better? Like you're not going to make people measurably more relatable unless they really want to change. And if they do that, they may or may not be doing it just to please you. And so like if somebody's not good, if somebody can't sell, they just don't have the characteristics of a good salesperson. Yeah. Let's not try to make them a salesperson. I mean, we can teach them the skills on how to sell, but let's not try and force them into something that they're not. Let's go find either a job that they can do within the business that they should do, or I always say, let's facilitate their success somewhere else. Let's have them go find a job. And I always look back to one of my very first jobs in leadership. And there was this gal, her name was Lori. She was one of the nicest people I'd ever met. And here she's in a job where she's constantly having to tell people no. And she hated telling people no. She wanted to love on you. And she'd always touch you when she'd talk to you. And like, it was a little weird at first, and then you just got used to it. But I finally just told her, I said, Lori, we need to find you a job somewhere else. And it's not within this company because we don't have a job that's great for you. And so she went out and we gave her 30 days and she continued to work, and she went and found another job, because what we were going to have to do to have her try to have success is to try and force her to be somebody that she isn't. We're going to have to, put stuff into her and give her confidence and telling people no. Well, that's
Yeah.
not who she was. And so,
Yeah.
anyways,
Mhm.
this just proved itself over and over and over and over again throughout my career.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I know with myself personally, whenever I try to make like big dramatic changes in my life, like I just fall on my face. But like if we make the little changes, like the
Yep.
quote says, you can't change people that much. Obviously, we all want to change for the
Yep.
better, but
Yep.
I think if we shoot for like the 1% every day or
Uh-huh.
every week or every month,
Yep.
that in turn like force multiplies and people as well in a leadership. If we're talking business, I think you're right. Like we can't give them drastic changes, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because then they're not aligning to their own natural talents or
Yep.
their own skills. So
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot about helping people do what they do best and not
Mhm.
trying to get them to do something that they're really not good at. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, good. I love that. Okay, and then we're gonna put that link in the show notes for that book. I personally haven't read it. I definitely love to throw it on my list. So you can maybe email that to me or get that to me. And then the other one I know personally, I've read seven habits of highly effective people. It's been it's probably been a decade since I've read that. So I I I know it's definitely a way to kind of make your life a little more effective or efficient. What do you have any tidbits of that you can remember, or maybe from the last
Yeah.
time you read it? Or
I think the habit that sticks out to me the most, and that I've repeated over and over and over again, and utilized and lived out over and over again, is to seek first to understand and
yes,
then be understood.
love it.
And in fact, I just used it this morning with a client who called me,
Hmm.
the guy who called me at like 6 something in the morning
Yeah,
after we had this text exchange. Like, you know what? You got to listen first, seek first to understand your partner and where he's
yeah,
coming from. And then you need to communicate how you're feeling about this. So definitely do that. But it's just proven over and over again in leadership situations where there's an issue with two people and I got to get involved. Or if somebody has an issue with me, look, I want to understand where you're coming from. I'm not going to force just, shut you down. And I think it, ultimately made me a much better leader than if I was always just trying to be understood, you know.
yeah,
And so, yeah, that's one just over and over. There's so many of the seven are, all of them are applicable. He even wrote a book called The Eighth Habit. I know, must have
yeah.
figured out there was one
That's
more.
it's Covey, right? Isn't it
Stephen
Stephen Covey?
Covey. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that one too. I think I've had interesting conversations with leaders that they talk at you and they don't really understand you, and you're like,
Mhm.
you've done this multiple times. Well, have you ever like taken the moment to like try to understand me of why maybe I've done that? Or
Mhm.
and if people really would first lead with understanding, then they
Yeah.
could really I mean, it's more effective for them because they can kind of customize their
Mhm.
message towards that person and make it
Yeah.
unique to them, as opposed to just shoving down understanding down that person's throat. So you got to lead with that, and just
Yeah.
especially if somebody wants to open up to you and kind of relay a message to you, try to understand where they're coming from and give them the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt. So yeah, I love that one. I remember that one out of the seven for sure.
Yeah.
Well, good. And then you had one more, Profit First. I think I actually heard a podcast the other day with the guy that wrote that book. Super successful book. I haven't read that one either. What's your nugget on that in a minute that we've got for
Yeah.
that?
Well, big thing for me and with small business owners is just knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
So many small business owners don't know their numbers yet. I like to say yet because I'm optimistic, and it's an area that we focus and spend a lot of time on, including their credit cards and are they getting the reward points. But um, profit first. I've talked to a lot of clients about this whole concept of true profit. Profit First has two core concepts. One is real revenue, and they call it real profit. And so it just forces you to think about your business differently, and it gives you some metrics that you can utilize. but it's really designed to, one, identify your real revenue, and then commit to paying yourself as the owner, certain owner pay, as well
Yeah.
as taking profits. So, and that the Profit First actually encourages you to create these bank accounts, and you take the
Yeah.
money.
Like kind of like a Dave Ramsey for business. Dave Ramsey has the envelope system on personal
Yeah,
finance where you assign every
yeah,
dollar an envelope or a bucket. And I think this was somewhat similar, and you assign a
yeah.
percentage or a dollar amount for your take home. And
Uh-huh.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and they give you a chart to help you figure that out based upon your real revenue,
Mm.
and you set a real profit target and all that. So it's a great book. Is it for every business? No, not necessarily. I think
Mhm.
that's like say really, I like to take businesses and meet them where they are. But it's a great tool for that business owner who maybe isn't looking at their business the way they should, and making sure that they're setting aside profit and set aside compensation, owner compensation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll put a link of that one on the show notes too. I'd love to read that. Well, good. One last couple questions. I know you mentioned to me earlier in our part one, I think that your daughter was involved in the business. I'm super curious because I got my kids involved in a side business, trying to teach them entrepreneurship, and it's just such a perfect blend of business and life to get your kids involved. And I think that's super cool. I'd love to ask you kind of what's been successful there for you. Like how's that experience real quick?
Yeah, it's been a work in progress for sure.
Mm.
You have a relationship with your kid, dad, daughter in this case, and whatever the history of that relationship gets brought into the business. So we were actually
Yeah.
having a conversation this morning. I said, because we're talking about her going full time instead of part time, and it's like if you're gonna go full time, I've told her all along, your job is to make my job easier
Yeah.
and my life easier in business, right? So that I can focus on the things that I need to focus on. And so it was like, you have to understand, like, when I ask you a question, it's not personal. There's nothing,
Yeah.
it's all business. That part's all business. And so I think the hardest part has been separating that. Like, hey, what happened with this? I'm not saying, you screwed up. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I want to know what happened with this.
Yeah.
There's no agenda. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm getting, the whole thing is we got to get stuff done. And so I think that that dynamic and working through that's the biggest challenge. Once we can get past that hurdle, and I think we're getting there. Once we can get past that hurdle, I think it becomes a whole lot easier.
Yeah. So there you kind of have to frame it up like, hey, we're gonna put our hats on, and I'm your manager and you're my
Yeah.
you're working for me, and here's what we need to do. No, that makes total sense. Have you found any as far as benefits from a business? I'm not a CPA, full disclosure. And it's from a tax standpoint, as far as helping, are you guys doing some cool stuff with any retirement? Like how do you kind of mesh that?
Haven't done so much. It's still relatively early on, but there are some tax benefits, and I can't detail them all for you exactly. But there are some tax benefits that if you employ your kids, what you pay them, and the taxability of that, and tax deductibility of stuff. I know that my CPA is working it out because we talked about it briefly when we did
Yeah.
our tax planning meeting this year. But yeah, so there are some benefits there, and you can also do some interesting things from like a 401k program and that sort of thing. SEP IRAs and
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Okay. Good.
yeah,
Yeah, I know there's some good perks of employing your kid, and even if you overpay them a little bit so they can kind of
yeah,
manage their lives and
yeah,
kind of push money, you're gonna have to, obviously they're kids, so you're gonna be paying some sort of a bill when they're under
yeah,
your roof potentially anyway. So if you can get that flowing through the business, there may or may not be tax benefits
yeah,
there. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, good. So last question. It's a fun one. We've got really one of the points of business credit cards is a lot of our clients use we have two cards, cash and travel, but even if they use the cash card, they're using that cash for travel. What's somewhere you guys have done as a family, or maybe you personally, either way, like a cool vacation you've done? And if you have used any credit card rewards for that, more power to it. But what's somewhere cool you guys have been, you kind of brag about, that you love in travel?
Been quite a few places. Probably the most fun has been cruising. I don't know if if you've been on cruises or not.
Not
But
yet. Well, no, not with my family. So that's
oh,
on the
yeah,
agenda. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think we've been on 5 or 6 cruises. One with the kids and the other one with my wife. And so I love getting on the big boats and going a bunch of different stops. Probably the best one was actually the most recent one we did with family, because we were on Royal Caribbean and we hit their island. They got this enormous water park out in the middle of the
Oh yeah.
on their private island. That was a ton of fun. Went to Bermuda and the Bahamas and their island, and so that was a ton of fun. It's just something, the thing about the cruises, you just got to make sure you don't eat too much.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. So that's I'm gonna give we're going on a cruise in April. I think it is Royal Caribbean, but yeah, it's the food. There's I hear it's always available, which is tough. So
Yeah, and it's good too. It tastes good too. So
yeah, that's good. Okay.
yeah,
So you guys, you recommend the cruise into the Caribbean? No, that's
yeah,
I think everyone's got to do that once eventually.
yeah. Tough to beat.
Yeah, good. Well, cool. No, we've got appreciate your time today. We've definitely got some good nuggets, takeaways. That's kind of my goal in this. Where can people find you? I'm sure we've had some people like, man, I'd love to connect with Rick. I've had a lot of success with mutual clients, so I'd love to kind of figure out where can people best find you? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, and I mean, we're happy. I do a free discovery call, so if somebody wants to just figure out whether or not it makes sense for us to work together, they can reach me at 208-565-6099. So they can text me there or call me. They can also reach me at @MyUp Advisors, or they can visit the website at myupadvisors.com, and they can schedule a meeting there if they want to do a discovery call or a deeper dive.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, I'll put that in the show notes. I've enjoyed this conversation. Maybe we could do a part 3 someday and connect on a couple other things. And time flew by, so there's a few things I wanted to ask. So we'll have to shoot for another time. And yeah, I appreciate you hopping on.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Rick.